sunwheelmagic.com, thunderwizard.com. Paleolithic Continuity Paradigm versus the Indo-European Migration Conquest Theory. If this is your first time looking at this series of videos, please go back to the first one so you can better understand some of the things I'm talking about. Okay, so we talked about the basics of the two competing theories. We talked about how it destroys any idea of racial homogeneity among the Indo-European tribes. Now let's talk about reconstructing religion. Again, going back and understanding that the presupposition of many people when it comes to reconstructing Germanic polytheism has already embedded in it this idea of racial homogeneity. So many heathens have a very difficult time with this idea of looking at Hinduism and comparing it to pre-Christian Germanic polytheism, because they'll say, oh, that's different. Of course, there are some differences, but whether it's voiced or not, and some are very vocal about it, some, in my opinion, aren't vocal about it, but this is still what's going on. They see a clear racial distinction, which is obvious, which is real, between modern Indians and people of Germanic descent. And the supposition is that, well, this can't be the same. Their Hindu religion is very different. They interbred with non-Indo-European peoples and adopted non-Indo-European aspects of religion. Some of that is true. And so therefore this is not a true Indo-European religion. It's not the Vedic religion. And, you know, all this superiority and, you know, kind of thing comes up. But here are the facts. The facts are that the Hindus are the only practitioners of an Indo-European religion that has an unbroken connection back into prehistory, taking them all the way back to the first Indo-Europeans that arrived in the Northern Hemisphere. Those would have been through the Aryans, the Aryan tribes, which are the people who came down and conquered India. But this idea that race somehow taints it and changes it is faulty, because the whole idea of Indo-Europeans being racially homogeneous has been disproved. You can't ascribe light hair or light eyes to being Indo-European. And in fact, the Indo-European religion means that our ancestors held on to their beliefs as their ethnicity was changing over tens of thousands of years. So that criteria for dismissing Hinduism is not logical. Okay, it's coming from an emotionally biased presupposition. The fact of the matter is that Hinduism is based on the Vedic religion, and it did change over time. So this also comes to this idea of, you know, again, Reconstructionism. Reconstructionists, you know, those, you know, tend to be very proud and say, I'm a Reconstructionist, and idea is that they are reconstructing the original religion of the Germanic peoples. Well, Hinduism has this sort of dual identity going on, where on the one hand you have Brahmins who are practicing the oral traditions of the Vedas exactly as it was taught 4,000 years ago by the original Aryan tribes that came down. And from that they have based other sects coming from that, which we call Hinduism. But of course Hinduism, there is no such thing. That's a word that Westerners have put onto the indigenous religions of India. And they don't call themselves Hindus. They call themselves followers of Sanatana Dharma, which means the eternal path. So that springs up something in me about the whole idea of using the word pagan and heathen, which I'll get into in another video. But so I think it is absolutely imperative, if somebody truly wants to reconstruct an authentic Indo-European form of polytheism, Germanic polytheism, if you want to understand the Germanic languages, if you want to understand the Germanic deities, if you want to understand the Germanic rituals you'd be an idiot not to go and at least look at Vedic ritual and Hindu ritual and see where there are any commonalities, and if there are, further explore that. I've talked in some other videos about having looked at oral tradition from tantric Hindu mysticism. I discovered things about the name Thunar and who the pre-Christian Germanic thunder god really was. I wouldn't have known that because our oral traditions have been destroyed for the past 1,000 to 2,000 years by Christianity. So that's an important ramification based on the findings of the Paleolithic Continuity Paradigm.